You're watching Medfield TV.
Hello, Medfield. Our subject today is cancer. It's maybe not your favorite topic to hear about, but it's timely, of course. We just had finished Medfield Day. And Medfield Day, I had a booth supporting the Cancer Society with a free scarf if you made a donation. People stopped by and just donated money, often without taking a scarf themselves. I come from a cancer family. My 8 aunts and 8 uncles all died of cancer. My parents both died of cancer, and my husband died of cancer. But most of them had a quicker journey to heaven than my friend Carol had. She'll talk about her husband's long battle with cancer. So I hope you all listen to it and learn something from it, because I learn from every time I hear somebody going through tragedy, you learn something. So Carol, Lynch, would you go ahead and tell us about your husband's journey?
It started in 2008. My husband came down with stage 4 cancer. He had prostate cancer that went into the bone. So we immediately went over to Dana-Farber, and they put him on heavy medicine, chemo, for a long period of time. And then he was in and out of hospitals. He was in and out of all kinds of places to go to help him with his problem. But I really want to talk about when he was at Brigham's. He went into Brigham's Hospital with cancer, and then at the end, probably in 2012, he went in because he had an obstruction in his bowel caused by the chemo. But while he was in there, he was on a floor that they didn't really pay a lot of attention to him with all his problems. So somebody came over, one of the nurses came over and said, you know, what would be a great idea if you put him on the palliative floor. They're all cancer patients down there, and they have a lot of time to devote to your husband. I said, fine. I tell you, I was so impressed with that floor. They were right there. They gave him, you know, they even had Reiki people come in and made him feel good. They were with him 24/7. I was just so impressed. I'd like to just say the nurses on that floor, or the nurses all over Brigham's, are spectacular. It was Christmas time, and we were all home, and he couldn't come home. And the nurses went out with her own money and spent, you know, to buy stuff to make a blanket. Well, as you well probably know, that cancer patients are always cold. So an extra blanket to them is like giving them $1 million. But when I get in there, he said to me, you know what? You'll never guess. I'm so happy today. They gave me a Christmas gift. And I said, why? What was it? It was a blanket that this nurse made. And it's keeping me so warm. God, I hope I don't cry. But after that, I talked to the nurse, the head nurse there, and asked her, how many rooms are on this floor? And she said, there's only 10. And I said, I don't understand why, with a stage 4 patient, couldn't put more rooms on the palliative floor where you get such wonderful attention and help. And she said, what we're trying to do is we're trying to expand that floor. Now, this was back in 2014. Thank God I haven't been in there, but I'm wondering if, you know, they're still trying to get money to extend that floor. There's just so much I could tell you on that journey that I went through. He never complained. He was always very strong. He wanted to live for his family. So I did everything I could to make sure that would happen, that he would live as long as he could. With the help of Dr. Hayes, who was a big nurse, she's a doctor at Brigham and Women's, she also helped me, and she, you know, together, you know, she would help me, would tell me where to go, what to do, what rehab to go to, all that whole time. And I mean, if you have to have a journey when you're really, really sick, he had great people behind him, doctors, nurses, myself. He had a wonderful family, and it made the pain a little bit better, knowing that he has so much help.
It does help.
In fact, at one time, he was at Sinai, which is a rehab. He was there for cancer. And then he had another problem, and they rushed him into Beth Israel. Well, the doctors in Beth Israel were so, they could not believe that he was still alive with the kind of cancer he has. So afterwards, when he got better, he came home. He went back to the rehab, and when he was in there, 4 of the doctors that treated him at Beth Israel came to visit. Now,
That's amazing.
that's amazing.
That is amazing.
You never hear of that. My husband just never complained, and I think they were just so appreciative of him, and they really liked him a lot. I was just so happy that he got the care that he deserved.
When you mentioned the family support, I was thinking, my husband was diagnosed in August after a family golf tournament. He always walked around the course, and that one time he asked for a golf cart. And for my husband to do that was an admission. So that one of my kids called me from the golf course and said, have Dad checked out. So he even said when he got home he better go to the doctor. So they found out he had terminal lung cancer right then and there. And they told us 6 months, so it's a much quicker journey than your husband had. 6 months, maybe a little longer with chemo. So he decided to try and stretch it out. So when chemo, I had one son came up from North Carolina to drive us to chemo. Another one came up from North Carolina to drive us to chemo. I mean, I was amazed what people did in support, and it meant so much. It meant so much.
Yeah, it makes the journey a lot better. I know that my family would take turns coming in with me because my husband did weigh like 200 pounds. He was a big man. He was 6'3", and I had to push him around, and sometimes I would try to get him in the elevator, and his legs would be sticking out, and then he couldn't get in, and everybody's looking at me because he was so heavy to push.
Sure.
But so my children, I have 4 children. I have 1 boy and 3 girls, and they decided that they are going to come with me.
That's what my kids were doing.
That's
exactly what my kids said.
It just made it so much better, because then they would stay with me while he had blood and his chemo. So it made it good. I could go down and have lunch with them, and while he was having treatment. So
it helps a lot.
It
helps both the patient and also whoever taking care of them. It makes a big difference.
Yeah, it really does.
We're lucky to have it.
Yeah. Today, I know things have gotten a lot better for cancer patients. I know that they're finding cures for them, the different type of cancers, and I just give money every single year to hopefully they'll find a cure for everybody's cancer.
I used to think in my lifetime we'd have a cure, but they better hurry up because I'm 85 now and I don't have much time I have left for them to get it. But it would be a wonderful thing.
It would be a wonderful thing.
Because after watching my parents go and my aunts and uncles go, it was, and then of course my husband was.
And years ago, my mother had stage 4 pancreatic cancer back in the 60s. Nobody really talked about cancer back then. You didn't tell your neighbors, you didn't tell your friends. You know, you just went to the doctors and, you know, they said there's nothing they can do, and she died 6 months later. But today, you have a chance at life, where back then she had no chance of life. And so we've actually come a long way. So I hope that we keep going and we find a cure for cancer.
Is your son getting tested for prostate, I assume?
He is. I am on him all the time. I have, where she died of pancreatic cancer, I checked once a year.
Mm-hmm.
I have my children checked all the time as well. Yeah, I do. Because if you get it, you know, right away, you have chances to live a lot
much
longer.
better chance.
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah. So, but it is a terrible disease, and even the small children that have it, it's just a horrifying thing for them as well. So I hope I'm alive to see that some cures will come.
Yeah. I saw a woman shopping a few weeks ago, and she was limping, and I'd seen her before, and we chatted a little bit, but I said, oh, I never asked her what's wrong with your leg, and she said bone cancer. She lost the lower part of her leg with cancer, and it went up to her thigh. And she was young. She was maybe late 30s, and some young children. I thought, it's just not should happen. And we all have to die, but we don't have to die like that.
Right, exactly.
And I admire her spunk. She was shopping by herself.
Right.
Amazing.
There's a lot of stories out there that you know, sit down and talk with them. It's just, it's amazing. And like my husband was very, very strong. And like I said, again, he never ever complained. So I, as his wife, knew that he was suffering and he was in a lot of pain. When I used to take care of him, he was in a hospital bed at home. When I was with him all day and all night, when I'd leave him to go to sleep, he would thank me every single night. He would say, "Thank you for, you know, making it easier."
Yeah. It must have been a lot of pain when it went into his bones.
It was a lot. That's when he had radiation. They gave him radiation, and he didn't have to. They said, "If you don't want to have this," and he said, "Absolutely. Whatever you can give me to stop the pain, I'm going to take it. And I want to live for my family."
What did they give him for pain?
I don't want to say dilaudid, you know, those pills. He wasn't a pill thing, so he would say, he would never ask for it. I mean, he just would never ask to relieve the pain. At home, he wouldn't take anything at home. I mean, the doctors gave me all kinds of medication for him, but he wouldn't take it.
He didn't take it. He must have hurt like a son of a gun.
He did. He really did. And but he was very, like I say, he was a very strong man, and he used to just love to see his family come over. I think it kind of gave him the opportunity to think about going, you know, staying alive. He just would fight. Yeah. He just didn't want to give in. He wanted to be around his family.
When we got my husband's diagnosed that August, and my husband died the same year your husband did, but I called his sister who lives in North Carolina and his brother in Florida and suggested they come up for a visit. And they did. They said why, and I said, well, we know he's terminal. We don't know when, but so they both came up and gave it a month, and they came up, which was good.
Right.
And had a chance to say goodbye to them and say how much he liked them.
Right.
And they had a chance to say how much they liked him.
Right. Exactly.
That's why I was glad the kids were so supportive and were there.
Family's so important when your loved one is sick and hurting. You know, with any disease, it doesn't matter whether it's cancer or another disease, but family's so important to that person. And
we've lived in Medfield for a long time, but we had several good friends. We had two men friends, so I won't mention their name, but they were the softest, mushiest. I remember they both sitting there holding my husband's hand. And one came the day he was dying and held him to the end. And the other man came over frequently, he lived nearby, and came over, and it meant a lot.
Right.
But for men to open their hearts up like that, and they were crying, and it was so moving.
Right.
To watch men cry for a friend.
Right.
Very moving. But I think their being there helped my husband a lot.
It does. I don't think people realize that they really do. I mean, my husband, he would say, you know, this was the best day I had. I've had my family, my sister, they all came in to see me today. He said, this is the best day of all the 8 years that I've had. Yeah. Being around my whole family. Yeah, it does mean a lot.
You know, my husband wanted to stay home, so we set up a bed in the living room, and it worked out very well. Toward the end, we did have hospice the last week or so. We had hospice come in. But he wanted to be home. So I left. He liked television. He liked Sheldon. He liked watching Sheldon. So Sheldon, we could find him on 24 hours a day. And it was kind of a family joke, what Sheldon was doing today. But he would smile. Still when he was lying in the hospital bed, if he heard Sheldon's voice, he would just smile. So that was a good thing.
Yeah.
But the hospice was wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
Well, my husband didn't want hospice. They wanted to give it to him from the hospital, Brigham's and Dana-Farber. He refused. He didn't. He said he just didn't. He wanted to live as long as he can. He did not. He had this fear that they would give him morphine and that would be the end. He did not want that. So he went through without it for 8 years. Although the doctor was with him all the time. I mean, we'd go in maybe once a week and she would see what he needed and give it to him. But no, and he wouldn't, actually, I didn't even know he was dying. Nobody really said anything to me. He was in the hospital the day before, and they said that he was having a problem breathing. So I said to the nurse, why is he having a problem breathing? And she just said, well, they wanted to take the fluid out of his lungs, and then they decided not to. So they sent him home with oxygen. And I'm like thinking, oh my God, you know, what's going to happen? But I had still, right up until that moment, I never even thought he was going to die. So when he came home from the hospital, I made him a smoothie.
Okay.
With spinach and
no bourbon?
No bourbon. No, he would have loved that being Irish, trust me. But bourbon, I mean, he had all kinds of stuff in it. And I, like I say, again, I didn't know that he was dying. And he just looked at me like, are you crazy giving me this? So I said, just drink it, it'll make you strong. And he, of course, when they're at the end, they don't like to eat. And so and he would have done anything for me because I was trying to help him.
I know,
So he, like I say, I put it down, but the next day, the nurse came in. I said, you know, the breathing has gotten a lot worse, still not knowing what was happening. And she said, we need to get somebody in here, you know, because he's probably going to pass today or tomorrow. So, but right up until that day, I don't think he knew, or myself, that was happening. It was just, we didn't want to believe it was going to happen. That's what it was.
My husband knew.
Yeah.
He was very aware, but maybe partly because his sister and brother came all that way, and the kids were there all the time. But he definitely knew it was the end. He told us that.
Yeah.
And then he wasn't the world's most devout churchgoer. He was raised in going to church, but he only went if I kind of made him, or if the kids were involved, he would go.
Right.
But so I said, well, what's going to happen then? Are you going to go to heaven? And he said, well, if I get there, I'll send you a message. So a few months later, it was his birthday. But what's funny is I had made an offer on a house all by myself through a friend of a friend, and they called me on Andy's birthday and said they accepted my offer.
Wow.
And it was that.
Wonderful.
So I called the kids and said, Dad made it. He's really in heaven.
Yeah,
he's really in heaven, despite everything.
Yeah.
He's in heaven.
Yeah.
And I hope so.
Yeah. I mean, if you have to go through to see your husband really, you know, sick and in a lot of pain, and then sit back and go through everything, you're saying, oh my God, he had the best doctors, he had the best nurses. He had his family around. I mean, he was blessed. He was actually really blessed. And I felt like, you know, he was really blessed with all the people that really loved him and helped him through this journey.
Yeah, I hope they appreciate what they did.
They do.
I hope
to this
so.
day, they do. They really.
I hope so.
Yeah. I mean, the doctor that was at Brigham's, at Dana-Farber, she was just the most wonderful doctor I had ever imagined. And she said to Tom one day, she said, you know, Tom, I'll do anything for you because you never, ever complain, and you're in a lot of pain. In fact, when he passed, there were 4 doctors from Brigham's that came, that Dana-Farber that came to the wake, which I thought it was never heard of. So, yeah. But you know, do I miss him today? Of course. You know, I mean, you lose your loved one, and being married. I think it was 54 years we were married, and that's a long time.
Yeah, I made 58 and a half.
Yeah.
Which is a record.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot, because you know, there are people that go that long, but.
I just wish I kept my husband home. He did not want to be hospitalized, so he was in our house. And I wish there was some easier way for people to die when they get to that point.
Right, exactly.
I wish there were. It was tough for my kids to see. My one grandson took him a long time before he got over it.
Right.
He was just a little boy, and he used to see my husband all the time at sporting events and stuff. And it was very hard for a kid to watch somebody they care about.
Exactly.
It really was.
Yeah.
Very, very hard.
Yeah. I think that with my family, anyhow, I didn't want to recognize that he's going to die. I just didn't want to think that he's going to die. So I kept it in the back of my mind that he's not going to die. And Tom kept it in the back of his mind that he's not going to die. So, I mean, with the type of cancer he had, he went beyond. The doctor said that there's not too many patients that lived as long as Tom has, 8 years with that type of cancer. So I feel that the two of us made it happen. We made it so that he could extended his life a little bit longer.
And those
so.
wonderful nurses you were talking about.
Right, exactly.
And do you recommend the palliative care, and other hospitals as well?
Definitely.
Do they have any
really
of that in the local hospitals here, or just in Boston?
Just in Boston. I've never even heard of it before. But I really think that every hospital should have it if you're going to be handling cancer patients. They're wonderful. They put music on in their rooms, and they give them massages, and Reiki comes in, and it's amazing.
They didn't turn on Big Bang Theory and Sheldon?
No, but I should call Brigham's and see if they've extended the floor. I mean, that'd be
interesting.
Something really wonderful.
It would be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, not to say that the other floors that my husband went to wasn't good, because Brigham's every single floor is good. But he's in with like 3 people, and he's sick. He's very sick.
Absolutely.
And I just don't think that, I never even heard of a palliative floor until they brought Tom down to that floor. I would have recommended it right away. So hopefully other hospitals will look into that.
Were the majority of the patients on that floor cancer patients?
Yes.
All of them, or
stage 4.
All cancer, all stage 4.
All stage 4 cancer. And I'm sure there's plenty more out there at the time, and they just didn't have enough beds, enough rooms. So I think that's what they were trying to. I made a CD right after my husband died, and because I found out the nurse that made that blanket, and I asked her if she could meet with my family at some point, because he was so impressed with that blanket, and she said absolutely. But meanwhile, the director of nursing had heard about it and called me on the phone and said, would you do a CD? And I said, absolutely. And she said, we have a nurses' dinner once a year, and there's probably like maybe 800 nurses that will attend. We'd like to put this CD on, and you could, talk about it. So they brought in somebody to talk with me, and I made the CD, and I felt so proud. And my son said, Mom, that was wonderful.
Oh, really?
I can't believe you just buried your husband and you're talking about palliative floor and how wonderful it is. So.
Wow. I still hope there's an end to cancer in some time.
I hope so too, and I really do.
One of my cousins was a doctor in Philadelphia, and when he came up once, he wanted to go to Dana-Farber, and I was a long-time EMT, and he said, will any of your EMT friends like to come with us and look at the children in the Dana-Farber? And we all said no.
Yeah.
The idea of going and watching, it's bad enough to watch an adult, but to watch a child.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
I don't know how the doctors do it. I don't know how the nurses do it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I couldn't do it.
They're very special.
Oh, they're more than that.
They really are very, very special. And they don't get enough credit for what they do. I'm sure there's other people feel the same way I do, but nobody voices their opinion. And I can't say enough about the nurses today. I really can't. But if I had a lot of money, I would definitely put money into that palliative floor.
Would you really? Good for you.
I would, yeah.
No, it would be a wonderful thing to do.
It would be, yeah. It would make a lot of patients feel a lot better, and if they can't find a cure by that time, they should really think about putting it everywhere.
Yeah, probably.
Everywhere they have cancer patients, they should put palliative floors on.
Because the national population is getting older, so it's going to be more and more common.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
That was a journey. And then this is kind of a funny thing. I went into the Brigham's just because I had to go for a checkup. And I'm coming down the elevator, and I hear my voice. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, who's that? And they had put the CD in the lobby for everybody to hear. I went, oh my goodness. And then my sister-in-law, who is, she works in the operating room there, she came down, she was working, and she came down and she said, "Oh my God, that's my cousin Carol on the CD."
Wow.
But I wish the whole world could hear it, because, you know, I just...
Maybe we could get a copy of this from Medfield TV and mail it into them.
It would be nice.
And they might put that one on,
That would be nice.
but they might know how well they're regarded by you.
Right, yeah. No, I think we talk to ourselves about it, but I think everybody should be talking about how we can help
Absolutely.
Dana-Farber. How can we help? I mean, I know there's thousands of people that are walking now for cancer. Is there anything else that we can do to raise money for cancer is, you know, what I've been thinking about.
Well, next year you can come to my booth on Medfield Day.
I will, I will.
It's a free scarf with your donation.
Yeah, I definitely will, yeah.
No, it's a good thing. But we pass out brochures and pamphlets about trying to get people to look at different tests. Have you got any symptoms, et cetera? So we had a lot of brochures this year.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing.
It is a good thing.
Trying to help.
Yeah.
Every step.
I actually should have been there.
Oh, don't worry about it. Every step.
Yeah.
Do you have any parting words for us?
I just, to the people out there that probably have cancer in their family or they're dealing with it right now, I bless you and give you hope and love all of you, because I know what you're going through. And the doctors and the nurses at the Brigham's and the Dana-Farber and all the other hospitals in Boston, you can't get better care. You just can't get better care. Thank you.
Oh, I thank you for coming, Carol.
Holding tears back.
I know. I know it's hard for me too. But I really appreciate that, and I hope you folks at home are paying attention. Is there any way they could reach you if they had any questions, Carol?
Actually, you could call the senior center.
Okay.
I could, leave my number down there if they want to talk with me or they want to help with any. I could help in any way. I have so many. I found different ways to help my husband to keep him alive. I could maybe help it, make it a little easier, and steer you in the right direction. I also had. He was so sick. They said, "Let's do a trial." This medicine, it was in Ireland, and nobody approved it yet, and they approved it for Tom. And they gave it to him for 6 months or 3 months, and it didn't work. But that was, at least we tried whatever was out there.
Absolutely, have to.
And so, I could, if you call me, I could tell you different things.
Do you want to give people your phone number?
No.
No? Okay.
No. But I can be reached I will let them know at the Medfield
Okay.
Senior Center, and I'll leave my number down there if you need any kind of help, or even if you just want to talk, because there's no one you can really turn to. You don't want you to get your family upset, and to talk to somebody that's been through it, it kind of makes you feel a lot better, and you have someone to go to. That was my thing. I didn't have anybody to really talk to, except for my family, and I didn't want them to cry or go
Right.
through it. So,
I know.
yeah.
Well, there have been a lot of us that have been in your shoes, unfortunately, but my
Right.
husband's journey was a lot shorter than yours.
Right.
Maybe more intense, but definitely shorter.
Right.
And I'm glad it was shorter. Not that I was glad to see him go, but I was glad it was over for him. I
Well,
am.
Yeah, no, it's hard. It's really, really hard. And if you have the resources and the help out there, it kind of makes it a little bit better.
Uh-huh.
I know it did for me anyhow. But like I said, I brought him into one hospital at Brigham's when he was sick, and they asked me if I was a doctor because I had read so much about his cancer, and I'm actually telling the doctors, maybe you should try this test. And they laughed afterwards, but yeah. So.
Oh, well.
But thanks for having me on. I know Ann is a wonderful person in the town of Medfield.
I am. I'm terrific.
She, has been the selectman for 33 years here and everything, and she's just a lovely, lovely person.
Oh, well,
So
thank you, Carol.
Thanks for
No,
having
we
me
became
on.
friends when we first met.
We did.
Absolutely.
At knitting.
Yep.
Right, at knitting.
Knitting's another binder.
Right,
It is. It's a
exactly.
wonderful thing.
Right.
But I know there are a lot of other families out there beside Carol's and mine that have gone through the cancer fight. And if we can help you in any way, I have an email address, annmedfield@verizon.net. My number's in the phone book, and I'll be happy to reach anybody. If you have any other stories you'd like to come talk about, give me a call or send me an email. And I would be more than happy to host you here, and maybe you'll help somebody else. And I hope Carol's story is helping some of you out there.
Right. Yeah, please call me. I would love to talk to you and call you back and give you some insight of what I went through to make it a little easier for you. So, like I said, it's the Medfield Senior Center. I'll leave my number down there.
Okay, well, everybody at home, thank you so much for watching
Thank
Medfield
you.
TV.
Yes, thank
We're
you.
glad to have you here and glad to get stories like this spread around. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're watching Medfield TV.